to just run through a few things. I'll keep it brief so that people can ask perhaps more questions. It's always better from my point of view to have more questions than me do talking. So just as I'm sure you're all aware, as Becky mentioned, that this has been going on for quite some time, and we had a brief back at the beginning of the summer from the steering group, and that brief has sort of evolved and developed, and it encompasses some of the other items that have been discussed for a while in terms of the sorts of sports, the sorts of activities, and so on and so forth. So we've brought this all together now, hopefully, into something that we can take forward into a more meaningful more meaningful design and process, and hopefully see it completed. So
yes, good.
In terms of design, I'll just run through very briefly. The brief was quite simple. It was to extend the car park area, put the pavilion roughly where the pavilion is now, and to provide better access. So all we've really done on this is to think about how the pavilion relates internally to the playing field and to the playing area, and give more of an access, more of an open access to everybody. So, you know, the practical things about parking, having a what they call a sud system, so a free draining system for the car park, which is obviously very environmentally friendly, and then also other things that we're talking about, which is water harvesting, that's holding water in tanks and things like that. So those are some of the technical things around the external areas that we're looking at doing. But in terms of approach, it's quite a simplistic approach, because actually most of the design is actually really governed by the requirements of Sport England, really. And on the back of that, what we've done is we've listened to the steering group and some of the other information that Andrew's been collating as well, and we've tried to look at this in a way that is open to everybody. So it's an opportunity to expand the what is on offer to you as a community, basically. So it's not just about the football teams. It's not just about the potential to have a cricket team or the potential to have netball teams, etc. It's also about how we offer the use of these facilities for things like running clubs and small groups. And I'll go on to some of the little things that we've done internally and that should help this. But so that's the sort of the parameters really into it. So there's no real great grand design in terms of where the building is located. It's got good access, good visibility from coming into the car parking, and you've got good access to the play area, the all-weather courts, the football pitches, and obviously the cricket wicket, etc. On there. Michael, do you want to move on to the next screen?
Yeah, Andrew, I think Andrew's got the control on that, Ed.
Here you are.
Yep. You okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've also got a couple of pictures of a storage container, but they're just very basic. So, but there we go. Yep. So
in terms of the use, we've designed it in terms of Sport England. The biggest sports obviously is cricket is the biggest one, really, to be honest. So the changing rooms, home and away changing rooms, are all designed for those. But also, if you look on the thing I was talking about other uses and other sports, what we tried to do is we tried to make this multifunctional. So, for example, you know, the toilets are not within the changing rooms. You know, we have the accessible. What's described as the accessible changing room is a multi-use space, and basically the idea behind having something that's accessible off the car park is that so that you don't actually have to open up the whole of the facility. For example, if you've got a cycling club that meets there and ends there, you know, then someone just might want to have a change of clothes or a quick change, quick shower. And likewise, people who use the courts of an evening, they can you know, they can get changed. You know, people generally, if they're playing five-a-side football or evening netball, etc., or basketball, people tend to come in, the cars are already changed, but there may be the odd one or two that come basically, you know, straight from work and you want to have a quick change and the odd shower. So that gives the opportunity there. In terms of the layout, it's very straightforward. You know, you come in from the entrance, obviously, which is on the car park, and there's visibility straight through to the outside in terms of the corridor. So basically what we looked at is obviously you've got the changing rooms on one side, and then you've got more of the multifunctional uses on the other side. So it's split between this corridor, and that's reflected in the elevations as well, in terms of the roof pitches and the differing pitches. You've then got the sort of the wet area, as we call it, which is towards the playing field, where you've got the seating, the boot wash facilities, and generally, you know, a bit of covered area where people can stand and watch. So, so that's the sort of, it's a very simplistic layout. There's nothing fancy about it as such. It's very condensed, but we've tried to make it very multifunctional. And so the other side, going into the club room, which is, again, the club room is sized for basically a cricket tee. But again, you know, what we've done in terms of the layout and the sizing of the things like the toilet facilities, for example, is give you the opportunity for the future to expand it. So, you know, if things are going well in the community and there's additional uses that you want to incorporate, there is an opportunity to expand the actual club room to make it bigger, but without expanding the services that you need to support the 100 people, say. So it's all thought with the processing, with the future in mind, and how flexible you want to be as a community. Bearing in mind this is a sports pavilion, we have to make it, you know, requirements of Sport England first, but ultimately we've designed it in a way that you can then develop it and use it really as you see fit, really, as a community, and the opportunities. So that's where we are. There's some practical measures, obviously the disabled toilet, there'll be level access throughout. You've got a small kitchen area, again, so it can be obviously cricket tees, but also other functions, evenings. And then there's a small space for storage and for tables and chairs as well on that. Andrew mentioned the storage unit, which is there's a sort of a container which can be put to the side. We've shown it on just to the other side of the changing rooms as well, and that's for the sports equipment really, so it doesn't take up the footprint of the building on that. So that's the space, that's the kind of arrangement. In terms of the elevations, really we've kind of taken this, a good thermal approach is what we've taken to this. So what we're thinking here is maybe that we'll do it in timber frame, where we can increase the insulation values and make it a very thermally efficient building. The roof pitches, we've gone for a pitch roof, obviously for the local vernacular anyway, but also there's a bit of overhang, but a flat roof, a bit of contemporary design in there. But primarily the pitches, obviously it's great, it's south facing, so we've got space for solar panels,
Yes.
if we can, you know. And the whole approach to this is that we would look at low carbon technologies. So highly thermally insulated is the first thing. If we can get some solar panels, that's great. But then also we'd look at, also with our mechanical engineer who's going to be looking at this, we're going to be looking at see whether we can use air source heat pumps as well for heating the hot water and the facility. So air source is basically, it's a heat exchanger. It's like a ground source, but it's probably more economical from a capital point of view. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at trying to make an efficient building. It's efficient in its design and its space, but efficient in its technical aspects, if you like, and backed up with other things like rainwater harvesting and free draining parking areas and things like that. So that's a very sort of brief précis. There's not a great deal to add other than that we've, you know, it's been a consultation with the steering group and Andrew and some of the other feedback that we've had. It's all been very positive. So thank you very much. But ultimately, I think, you know, what we as a design team would like to your feedback, really. So feedback on the sorts of materials. We put some suggestions there. It's not sort of wedded in stone, if you like. Obviously, planners they like to keep things to match the local environment, but there's nothing to say we can't do something modern. There's nothing to say we can't do something traditional. So there's a bit of glazing in there so that we can open up the club room of a summer evening to the playing fields. There's a bit of robustness in the elevations in terms of we're using brick, obviously, to make it secure, but then there's also opportunities for some more perhaps contemporary finishes like flat cladding or profile cladding for the roof, you know, or the actual elevations themselves. So it's really over to you as a community to critique the design. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.